In this video, I will be explaining how I installed the ClearSource Ultra water filter system. The objective of this install was twofold. Provide a whole RV water filter system, providing clean drinking water in all faucets. Reduce water pump noise. I came up with several items that will reduce the water pump noise. I will review these at the end of this video. Once I found the filtration system I wanted, I do have a short video that explains why I chose this specific item. The next goal was where to install the filter. The filter is basically 19 inches wide by 15 high and 7 inches deep. For the install, I had two options, either inside the front storage bay or in the storage box under the bed. After consideration, I decided to go with the under the bed storage for two reasons. I did not want to reduce the available space in the through storage bay, and we only used the storage under the bed for rarely used items, so it was not fully utilized. My first task was to find the feed line for the city water and the pump, which was relatively easy. Then I need to isolate the water feed to the RV, which proved to be a little bit more difficult. I did have to cut away some of the floor in the storage area to give access to the RV water feed line. Once I had identified the tank and the city water feed lines, I cut the city water feed and the RV main feed line. The next task was to design how I was going to build the lines to feed the pump, the new accumulator and the filter in the bed storage area. To accomplish this and help me build a parts list, saving me multiple visits to the hardware store, I constructed a 3D model of the project, which I will be using to help explain the detail in this video. So back to the install. After cutting the lines for the city water feed and the RV water feed, then added in the elbows for the cut city water and RV water lines. I used white 1/2 inch pack for the city water feed and blue 1/2 inch packs for the RV feed lines. I did this to avoid any confusion when working in the underbed storage as to which line is which. I also added some 1x2s and 2x2 pieces with a brad nailer to support all the new lines. Building this up to add shutoffs and a bypass so I could shut off water to the filter from inside the storage bay. This meant if I had issues with the filter, I could shut off the water from and to the filter and still allow water to be used in the RV. I also added a drain line to allow me to drain the entire filter and associated plumbing with minimal effort. This would help when changing filters and winterizing. Then, from under the bed storage box, I identified where I wanted the lines to pass into the box. I ran a small drill through the corner of the box and then found the other end of the drill in the storage bay. Once I was happy with the pass-through location, I used a 3/4 inch hole saw to cut a large enough hole for the feed and return lines. I then ran the PEX 1/2 inch with an elbow to and through this hole. Next was to position the water filter. I marked 4 anchor points on the case. Remember, this filter is not intended to be mounted. I then drilled these 4 holes in the filter back and mounted onto two 2x1 rails. To assist with supporting and movement when in travel of the filter, I built a 2x1 frame on the storage floor around the filter. Once I had the measurements of the filter inlet and outlet feed lines, I built up the filter water line setup off the filter. As this filter is designed for hose connection, I replaced the hose connectors with brass PEX 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch male MPT connectors. I installed the filter lines I built off the pump and then cut and connected the feed and return lines to the new setup. My final task was to reinstall the pump accumulator and put in new flex lines. I decided to add a separate pump switch in the storage bay so that if I needed to turn the pump off when inside the storage bay, I could easily do this. I then added water to the fresh water tank, and by running the pump I checked that I had no leaks. I did this using the following steps. The goal here was to slowly turn water onto each line and using the shutoffs verify for any leaks. I started off by turning off all valves, turned on the pump and checked for any leaks. I then opened up the bypass in the storage bay and again checked for leaks and ensured that water was flowing to all the faucets. Next, I set the filter bypass and shut the storage bay bypass and opened up the feeds to and from the filter, checking again for any leaks specifically in the bed storage box. Finally, I set the shut-off valves to allow water to flow through the filter. I turned on the faucets to allow air out of the filter and once again checked for any leaks. Once I verified that everything was running with the water tank, I then changed over to the city water line and again ensured that everything was working and I had no leaks. I just wanted to show everybody the comparison between the 3D modeling and the actual install. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, let's now discuss quieting down the water pump. I made several changes to the manufacturer's setup. I started off by cutting a 3/4 inch plywood base to fit under the pump. I also added a 1/2 inch rubber under this base to help reduce vibration to the floor. Given that the floor is a box, it basically acts as a noise amplifier. I then attached the pump and this board to the floor using the rubber feet on the pump. I added an accumulator which helps when using a slow flow on a faucet. It stops the pump from running continually even for the smallest amount of water. I also replaced all pump in and out feeds with custom made flexible 1/2 inch reinforced PVC lines. I also made sure that none of these lines, specifically lined from the pump to the accumulator, was touching any of the RV frame. Depending upon the specifics of your installation, tools that you will need for this project are as follows. You will need a drill and some bits to drill the case, assuming you use the Ultra and not the Pro version of the filter. A PEX crimping and cutting tool, potentially a tool to cut away the paneling or flooring to gain access to the lines. I use a drum oscillating tool for this. As far as materials are concerned, this depends on your specific installation, but you will need PEX 1/2 inch shutoffs, PEX 1/2 inch pipe, various PEX 1/2 inch brass connectors, elbows, etc., and 1/2 inch PEX clamp rings. For the rings, I always get the sharp bite ones, a little more expensive, but others I have tried are hard to crimp in tight spaces. I hope you found this video helpful, and thank you for watching. Please help me to continue providing content by subscribing, giving me a thumbs up and clicking the bell to get new notifications.